While we sleep, the guardians of the night take to the streets, having said goodbye to those they love. Each other knowing they may never say these words again, they face the evil that we run from. They dedicate their lives to those that would hate them because they wear the badge. They wear the badge not for the glory or recognition, but because they were born to honor the thin blue line. This is the LEO First Podcast. We'll talk to the men and women in law enforcement, those that have retired, and anyone who's impacted by law enforcement. We'll peel back the curtain, and you'll get the real stories. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Every law enforcement officer has a story to tell. Get ready to hear from the men and women who put their lives on the line every day for their communities and their country. Welcome to the LEO First Podcast. Now, here's your host, Michael Laidler.
So, everybody, welcome to the LEO First Podcast. You know, you have your host, Michael Laidler. I'm excited to be here with you all. If you guys can't tell, we are filming live from not just my desktop computer, but we're also on Instagram Live. You got my man, Jeff Martin, on here, and we're just here to have a conversation. We just want to share some of the things that we've been through, some of the things that he's been through. I mean, Jeff's been a law enforcement officer now for 10 years. He has gone through some struggles that I know all of you will appreciate hearing how he's been able to overcome, and we're just going to talk about that. If you heard any of my podcasts before, you know they're very organic, and I don't really script any question besides like 3, and that's kind of tell me what you want to talk about, where can we find you, and any final words. Outside of that, this is complete openness. So someone said put on some headphones. I don't know. Let's see. Let me grab my AirPods. Y'all hold tight. There we go.
I think we're good.
Yeah, somebody said we're good. Bravo. Thank you, Ty. Thank you, Byron. Thank you, Lindsay. All right, well, let's get back into this process. You guys know how technology is, and like I said, we're trying to master the game. We're trying to not just record through my Zoom platform, but we're also trying to make sure we have this live interaction with all of you, and we appreciate everybody that's taking the time to be on this live podcast. And we know when you're trying to be raw and authentic and genuine, there's going to be a couple of hiccups because we all have full-time jobs. We have everyday things going on, but we want to give you all value, and we want you to understand how important it is to just be yourselves. You guys have heard all the technical difficulties we've gone through. We've went through a few series of issues, but now, you know what? We're going to stop with all the issues. Jeff, what do you want to talk about today?
There was some, I wanted to talk about a little bit of mental health, things I've been through, the things I wish I knew before I came into the job, things to talk to new officers or people who want to be officers, and then also talking about being an officer of color too, how it's been challenging.
Okay, go ahead. You start it off. I'm sure you'll have some questions in the chat, and as people ask about it and bring it up, trust me, I'm monitoring both folks. I got a second phone right here, so you guys throw any questions in there. But yeah, Jeff, just start talking, man. Let's do this.
All right. Well, first, I've been a police officer, like you said, for 10 years now. Started in 2015, so almost 10 years. And during that time, I was out living, feeling like I was Superman, out getting drugs, getting guns off the street, helping with as many task units as I could, doing the best I could. And all of a sudden, that came to a halt when on about 2021, I had a call that kind of tipped over my wheelbarrow, and kind of get into that a little bit. I struggled really bad with PTSD, and I guess I'll take you on the call that kind of got me there. It was I was working a double one night, and like I said, I thought nothing could change me. I've been a police officer for 8 years at that time. Saw everything. I thought nothing could faze me. I had a call where actually somebody I went to high school with, it was a domestic call. Actually, it was really weird because I talked to him the day before, and we got a call about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I knew the route that he took to walk. Like I said, I just talked to him the day before, and I see him, stop up to him, and he pulled out a gun and decided that he was going to shoot himself in his head right in front of me. And at that moment, it was a little rough. I think at the moment, though, it was more of a shock. I was just like, what the heck just happened? And after that, one of my colleagues, my partner, still a friend to this day, told me, hey, man, like, you need to go get help. And I was like, man, I've seen everything. I've done everything. I'm good. Like, nothing's bothering me. He's like, well, I'm telling you, like, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it's going to catch you. And I'm like, nah, dude, I've seen it all. I've seen plenty of suicides. I've seen plenty of shootings. I've seen it all. And about a month passes, and I guess my wheelbarrow flipped over. Everything that I thought was good, everything I thought that I've seen, decided that it was going to come back and haunt me, I guess. And couldn't sleep at night. Things started becoming really like foggy, I guess. I was at work trying to do reports, and I'm like, man, I've put this password in a million times. How do I not remember this? Like, now I'm starting to get angry. And again, this was over a few months. I started getting angry at a lot of things, getting sad. Then I would go home and start drinking to try to numb away the pain, I guess. I don't know. A lot of things got hard, and I guess it took a toll on my family. I know they were always checking on me. My mom's always calling me, and I'm like, what do you keep calling me for? What do you keep calling me for? I'm fine. Like, apparently she noticed something in me. I mean, I guess all our moms notice before we notice things, huh?
They are. Trust me, if my mom's watching right now, which she probably isn't, because she would be all up in the comments, she would be in the same boat right now, saying that, yeah, they see everything before we do.
Exactly. And so that takes me to like, I started playing Russian roulette with my life, going on domestic calls by myself when you're not supposed to be doing that, waiting on another officer, just everything. I just didn't care about life. And I have a daughter. She's 6 years old now, and like nothing was fazing me. Like, I just did not care. Like, and I think while I was playing kind of Russian roulette, man, I can't say that word, with my life, is because I think, like, I thought about suicide a lot. I thought about it a lot. And I think why I was doing that on the job, which wasn't fair to my colleagues, because I was probably putting them in situations that they shouldn't be in. I think I was doing that more of the fact that, you know, if I die in the line of duty, people will remember me. People will honor me, think I'm a hero. And I wasn't. I was honestly putting other people's lives at risk. I was ruining a lot of friendships, putting a lot of pain on my own family. And I think that was more cowardness than anything. And now that I look back, I'm like, man, like, what did I do? Like, it was rough. I actually ended up having 2 suicide attempts. That was rough.
Well, I'm sure myself and everybody that's here in the chat is thankful that you're here, that it was only
I appreciate that.
Because it's a lot that we go through, and just the fact that you're sharing your story right now, and this being the first time you've ever been on a podcast, and just leaving it all up there, it's important, man. So keep going. I just want to let you know that if you don't know, man, we all believe in what you're doing and the fact that you're here. So attempts do happen, but we're really happy that you were never successful.
Thank you.
You were successful for a lot of things in life. We're happy that wasn't one of them. So
thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was rough, and I know, like I said, I hurt a lot of people. I know probably my family getting those phone calls that I'm on my way to the hospital in an ambulance, unconscious, and like I know I put a lot of hurt on people, and I wish I could take it back, but I mean, I guess it makes me into the person I am now, and that way I've been able to help a lot of other people, and it's really, I've really been blessed by that. I think God put me through a lot of things, and I never knew the reason why until I was able to start helping other people. And I guess I sounds crazy, but I wouldn't change a lot of that for anything, because like I said, I've had people call me and text me and ask me questions and help them through situations that I've been through, and they feel safe that they can contact me and know that I've been through it myself. And that's another thing I wanted to say is, like, I'm just going off topic a little bit, but like I feel like a lot of these
go ahead, do your thing. Don't go, just go, man. Don't hey, go do your thing, man. Go.
Yeah, I just think like a lot of police departments need to find like peer support more than just random therapists to help officers out, because I think I say this now, so I don't know in the time, but I think now if I was able to talk to somebody that I knew went through the things that I went through, I would have talked a little bit more. But I didn't want to go talk to a therapist who never got to see the things we got to see, never got to hear the things that we got to hear. So like me sitting in a room talking to these people, like what have you done? What have you seen? What have you heard? Mm-hmm. And it was like, you need to go see a counselor. You need to go see a counselor. And I'm like, what are they going to help me with? What are they going to say? Okay, yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you. So it was like, that was really hard to, and don't get me wrong, I've gone to therapy. I go to therapy for my life issues, but there needs to be one, I think, more active ones that are people that have been through things. So that's something that I think like in my head, I always like, I want to start something like to help other officers, peer support. And I know there's stuff out there that does do that, but it's hard to find. I feel like now it's becoming a little bit easier to find, but I feel like 2 years ago, I feel like I didn't have anything. I went to my police department for help, and I didn't really get much help there either. It was just, okay, get your days off, go home. Okay, well, now I'm sitting at home. All I know is police work.
Correct.
Now I'm sitting at home, and I'm like, what the heck's going on? I lived in the city that I worked in, so I'm hearing sirens go off. Now I'm bugging out, like, what the heck is going on? Are they okay? And now I'm turning on my radio to listen to it.
Can't do anything.
No, I'm not getting away from anything. And it's like, it was making it worse. And that's what leads me to like, feel like you gotta find that gap, because I've listened to a couple of your podcasts, and like you say, this is more than just a job. It is a commitment. It really is. I mean, everybody knows when you're a police officer, even when you're off duty, you're sitting towards that door, you're facing the door, you know every exit in the building. That's not normal. That's not normal.
No, you got to sit with your back towards all the time. Yeah.
And all my friends that are officers know, like when we're going to a restaurant, Jeff's got to sit there. Like, so it carries you, but you got to find friends and stuff outside of police work. Because I think that when you're all together, your police officers all together, we go out and drink, we have a drink. What are we talking about?
Police work.
So that's all we know what to talk about. So what's nice is like, I think that, and what's crazy is a lot of my friends are police officers, but I go outside of that too. Cause like I said, I fight now, so I hang around them a lot more too. So, but I think that a lot of people that are becoming police officers need to realize that this badge gets heavy. It really gets heavy, and you're going to see things that you thought would never bother you, and you see it and you're like, whoa, I didn't think that was going to bother me. And later on you're like, okay, what's going on? Like you start having like hands start sweating, heart starts beating fast. I had that for the first time, and I thought I was having a heart attack. I was like, what the heck is going on? And and I wish somebody would have told me this, because now I'm freaking out. Nobody told me like what a panic attack is. Like they don't talk about that in police academy. They don't talk really about mental health in the academy. And anybody who works, and I shouldn't say anybody, but anywhere it could happen, but mostly in cities and stuff, you see a lot of things that most people will never see, and it's going to hit you. Whether, like I said, whether it's today, whether it's tomorrow, I truly feel like it hits somebody somehow. And maybe that could be angry, sad all the time, numb to everything. There's different ways to see it. And I wish a lot of places would talk more about that, about the things that you can endure being a police officer.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I have this podcast, man. Because,
that's true.
I mean, it ain't just me. There's a lot of great podcast hosts out there. There's a lot of people that are doing what they have to do to kind of build up the profession. So it's just not Michael Laitler doing it all. But as we've seen an increase, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, we have seen a real emphasis by police agencies to now start bringing mental wellness, like you said, peer support, EAP, it's still not enough. And not saying that anybody's perfect, especially back from 2015 when you started. I started in 2005. Things were a little different, although that was only 9 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. There's a lot that has been changing. So with some of that stuff you've been doing, I want to bring up one part that like always stands out to me when it comes to having a life outside of law enforcement, because you did go through those experiences where you had to try to figure out how you can navigate both law enforcement and personal life. But there was a point where you didn't have it at all. So you got into MMA and you're still into it, because if anybody checks your page, they may see some fighting going on or something like that. Like what kind of how does having a hobby, or I don't know, I don't want to diminish it for you. It might be more than a hobby. How does just having something to do outside of law enforcement really help? Well, not just your physical health, but your mental health as well.
I think you're just not always thinking about all the bad, I guess, because when you go home, I feel like it just gives you an outlet. You're able to see other things in life and know that there's other things in life, and know that you're not just a police officer, that you're a human too. So to be able to go enjoy things with other people and do things outside of police work just opens up your eyes to like, hey, life is good. Like there are other things to do. There's other things to see besides all the bad and evil and everything. Like it's good to get in there and laugh and joke around and not be talking about police work. And like I said, I really think that it opens your mind. And
well, in your case, it's about not getting knocked out too. So that's probably something else you got to work. I mean, I like to travel and eat. I mean, you're out there trying not to get knocked out and get choked out. So it's a little different from what I would typically do. I still appreciate what you do, but I ain't trying to get my nose swollen. I ain't trying to get my ears folded up. I ain't trying to go night. I ain't trying to do
I love
that.
The adrenaline. I love the adrenaline. I snowboard. I fight. I do jiu-jitsu. I just love it. I love to get the heart going.
Well, I mean, you do it naturally in an all-day job, but then you go a little bit further. So with that, some of the stuff, like obviously you're jumping into mental wellness, you're finding other outlets, and it's really good to do that. Although you like to get like knocked out. I don't know what that excitement is.
I haven't been knocked out yet.
Okay. Now there might be somebody on this Instagram live that might be like, hey, they might put you on the challenge list. I don't know.
We can run it. No, I'm playing.
And no, it ain't gonna be me. And I tell you what, I'm not designed to get knocked out. Like I get mad and stuff like that, and I'm like, I got knocked out once. I'm like, Jeff, I'm done. I'll get choked out in practice, and I'm done. I'm like, I'm out, guys. So you got me on that. But with that, so like how does all this like impact your family life?
As in
anything, like not the MMA stuff, because obviously they're excited, but like some of the ups and downs you've had in law enforcement. How is that? Let's say dating, for example, because I don't know if you're in a relationship. I think I saw something on your Instagram. Like how is some of this over the last 10 years, you having these ups and downs impacted like just intimate relationship with others?
Like when are you talking about when I was struggling too?
Yes, everything. The whole from the last 10 years.
Well, when I was struggling, I mean, police work itself, I mean, you got to find somebody that's going to be understanding, very understanding, because there's going to be times where you got to work a 16-hour shift. I mean, people call off, people are sick. I mean, we get forced all the time, or you get forced into work. So you really got to find somebody that really understands the job, able to be a little bit more relaxed, I guess, because a lot of things in life as a police officer is very tense. So I feel like that's one thing that people really need to understand before getting into relationships as a police officer is you got to find that person and let them know things. When I was struggling really bad, I cashed out, man. Like I wasn't any good for anybody. And the thing is, it was more me. Like I didn't want to explain to them because I feel like I was saving them, but in reality, I was hurting them by hiding the emotions. And it really just messed up a lot of things. I mean, relationships with a significant other, my family. I know my child too. Like I said, she's 6, but these kids know more than what we think they do. And I know, like I said, with my family, I really put a toll on them. That really sucked, and they don't have a choice. They don't have a choice to be with. They don't have a choice to be with me, unfortunately. I'm sure they want to put me up for sale sometimes, but no. but like a relationship with a significant other, like I said, when I was struggling, I was just a body, man. Like I showed no emotion, and I know it was hard for anybody I was dealing with to be with me. I wasn't me. And yeah, I think being a police officer, any relationship, I feel like is going to be hard, whether you're struggling or not, because like I said, we get the crazy hours. You don't get to get that day shift normally until you're about 50, 60 years old.
And because of how big your agency is, it might be never.
Exactly. So you get the crappy hours, and you miss a lot of things. Unfortunately, you miss games, you miss birthdays, you miss holidays. I mean, I couldn't tell you the last Christmas I had with my family when I was like, I'm part-time now, but when I was working full-time, I couldn't tell you the last Christmas I had with my family. I mean, I was closer to the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah,
that was I got to work those days, which sucks, but I mean, it's part of the job, and that's what I mean by you gotta have somebody that's understanding and just is there for you. I mean, it's challenging.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big part of relationships.
And I know I kind of threw a wrench in what we were going to talk about. That was not on your notes list. I promise you that.
You're good. No, you're good. I like it.
But I tell you all the time, like, I mean, I was telling you in the pre-show, and anybody that's listened to the podcast before, as people are talking, I'm thinking of things, and I'm like, I wonder what people would really want to understand, because you are a young guy, and I saw in the comments before someone had mentioned about you being a police officer and being a catch or something like that, and I was like, you know what? Like that's only one aspect of dating a law enforcement officer. Yeah, it's cool to be in shape, it's cool to be attractive, but the other side to any relationship, especially like you said, if there's not full transparency, it's hey, I can't make it to Christmas. Hey, I can't be here for dinner tonight, or you know what? I've had such a bad day. Don't say anything to me, because in the law enforcement industry, I don't care if you're a police officer, you're a deputy, if you work in corrections, if you're a federal agent, you're probably going to see something bad. And a lot of times we have been told you need to shut it down before you get home. And honestly, what we've realized is that's not a real thing. Like, if that was real, PTSD would not exist in law enforcement. And I can tell you, Jeff, 100%. When I started in 2005, we used to talk about PTSD, and people would say, oh, that's only a military thing if you've been deployed. And it's just taken the last few years where we have seen the awareness of going to traumatic calls and critical incidents being deemed like with PTSD side effects. Yeah. So that's very important to understand in a relationship. Like, it ain't like you want to be an a-hole about it. Like, you don't want to be mean. You don't want to be distant and emotionless. It's just you see some bad things and it goes downhill.
Well, it's just like too, like I talked about before, like you go home, you've been dealing with crap all day, you've been getting yelled at all day, you get home and your significant other doesn't know, and they're like, you didn't put the dishes away, and they just right there set you off. You're like, I've already dealt with this all day, I'm not trying to hear this, I'm not trying to hear that. And like, really, they're like what the heck? Like, I just said you didn't put the dishes away, but you've been triggered all day. And then you go home, and just that little thing sets you off. And it's like, then like you're sitting there, you're like, dang, I probably should just chill out. Like, and that's one thing too. I heard, actually, I was at a peer support meeting, and they were talking about how what this lady does when she goes home. She's like, I just need 10 minutes to myself. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, that's a good thing to do. And like being able to understand that with your significant other, and like let them know, like, hey, if I come home and I just say I need a little bit of time, can you please just give me that time? Because you just need to decompress. And I think that's like I said, I think that's a big thing in a relationship too, is being able to, like, a transparency again. I need a minute. And because like you said, we do go home and we're like, oh shoot, we gotta be a whole different person now. And it doesn't happen like that.
No, it can't. No, it could, even if we wanted. I mean, the brain does not operate like that. And that's where like I felt like so many years in law enforcement, like I was told that, you know what, shut it down when you get home, or when you get to work, whatever's happening at home, don't bring it to work. And I felt like for so long that I was lying to myself, that, like you said, all it took was one trigger. Like, hey, I just had to deal with 9 people pushing back. Now you put back on some dishes or taking the trash out, and now it's the last person to get it.
Yep. And then you put it all out on her, and or whatever, and you're just like, man, like it just doesn't end up good.
Yeah. So I'm happy since we're talking about decompression. Lindsay just commented, and she, if you haven't heard her podcast, she did one with me back last year.
Okay.
And one of the things that she talked about was a shooting that she was in. And obviously she was shot several times, and she's obviously here today to talk about it just in general in life. And she's a speaker as well. One of the comments she said just now, she said another great one earlier, was she said she used to drive home and change out of her uniform as her time to decompress. But she realized that wasn't enough time. Like, she didn't take that 10 minutes. It was like, okay, just that. Because some people say, well, I have a drive home and that's enough. But what we are realizing, and I heard somebody, I want to say, did somebody say it earlier? I don't know if I had somebody on my podcast earlier today, but someone mentioned the same thing. They said, just get home and just tell somebody, hey, give me 10 minutes or 15 minutes. I just need to go in the room and complete silence. And then after that, let the kids run free.
Yeah, after that. Exactly. Yeah. It's hard. It's definitely hard. So
with all of this going on, and obviously you're at a part where I think that you're still, and we're all still in a work in progress, but you're still in it. Obviously, you're only so many years from being removed from having a critical incident, and even being part-time, you're still involved in things.
Yes.
If somebody didn't have like an ability to do a hobby as far as like MMA or something like that, they didn't have a support system, they didn't have peer support, would there be anything else that you've seen may have worked, or maybe any kind of type of techniques that kind of just help build that mindset to deal with critical incidents?
I mean, I feel like that comes a lot into the department that you're in, I guess. Is that what you mean? Like, after, like, I feel like, and this, I don't know if this is kind of off topic, but I feel like
it's on topic. If you're saying it, we're on topic. So go ahead.
I feel like that comes in play with the department that you're with and the people that you're working with. And I feel like we as officers need to realize when other people are not doing good. And I feel it as in, like, instead of, like, for instance, you have somebody calling in and they've been drinking all day, and you're like, oh, he just missed work because he's drinking. Oh, like, now I got to work over. Instead of like getting all angry, like, we should be looking at it like, okay, what's going on? He wasn't like this before he started work. And I feel like we need to be a team. We need to recognize the change in people, and we need to be there for them. I mean, I know even if they don't want to talk, it's still good to know that people are there for you. And I think that is the number one thing. And I guess that's not for that person to do, but I think the people around them are just as important to be able to be there for that person. Because like I said, I know I was very angry. I didn't know what to do. No hobbies was breaking it. But I feel like instead of like, oh, he's just angry, don't talk to him, he's being a jerk today, whatever, is like, hey man, you good? Like, you all right? Like, it's not normal for you to be this angry. Like,
correct.
What's going on, man? Like, even if that person's like, man, I don't want to talk to you, they're still going to remember in their head, like, hey, he did see that something was going on. Maybe something is going on. So I think that's the big part of when people don't have hobbies and stuff, is to surround yourself with good people. And I guess that could be outside of work too, is just being around good people.
You're right, man. And that's sometimes it's the simple part of that. And talking about good people, I'm going to read a couple of comments from the chat, and then there are some questions that I know that we didn't just field. So I'm sure Byron's still on, so I don't want him to think that or that we forgot about you. But I'm going to read to some comments that were coming up, especially when you were sharing your story. And I didn't want to interrupt you because it was such an amazing story that you were telling us in the beginning. So Lindsay said earlier about your overall life and things you were talking about it wasn't cowardness, it was trauma. We don't think clearly after trauma, and she's glad that you're here talking about this. So the fact that you're sharing your story is as important as living the story, because you don't know how many people are on this call right now or this Instagram live, they're like, you know what, the fact that Jeff just shared this with me, maybe I was going through something, maybe I was thinking about suicide, but maybe I'm not anymore, because I know there's life after that. So just for Lindsay alone, going through something traumatic was definitely, you're not alone. So Jeff, just keep that. And you know that already. Another comment, my buddy Ty, we're actually good friends. He says, your vulnerability to share what you were going through is helpful, because it gives hope that someone's going through the same thing right now can make it through it. So you see what I'm saying? So you have people that are really preaching. Another guy, I don't, it's one Wayali. I may be saying the Instagram handle wrong, but he said there's a lot of stigma around this topic, man, for sure. So it's people acknowledging that there's a lot that goes on with what we do and what even potentially that we're thinking about doing. So now there's going to be some questions I want to get through. One being from S_woman. You know what? Let me take that back. Let me get the Byron's question because he actually hit the Instagram story up and gave me the question. So Byron, let me just find your question. I want to say he talked about, and it's not directly dealing with mental health. It's dealing like how to become a police officer. So he was kind of curious about the process on becoming a police officer and maybe some of the steps that you've experienced, like not just starting off, but like continue throughout the process. So what can you shed any light for him on in that category?
The state of Ohio is a little different. I mean, you can join a police academy. You can go to just a police academy, just fill out an application and just go. And then you're freelancing basically. You fill out applications, let them know that you have your OPATA certification, which is the police academy certificate. And then there's also another way you can find the bigger departments like Akron, Columbus, Cleveland, and they'll actually put you through the academy. They'll pay you through the academy. So you could do it that way. There's two different ways to go about it. I mean, if I would tell anybody to do it again, I'd find a police department and have them pay you to go through it because it sucked working and going through the police academy.
Because police academy is a full-time job.
Yeah, it really is. And things I would say to get ready for the police academy is honestly run, work out, because I feel like that's where a lot of people go wrong. It's not hard. I feel like a lot of people make it harder than what it really is. I sucked in school and I aced the test. I mean, I feel like it's just what you want to put into it is what you get out of it. And like I said, the fitness part, it always kills everybody. So make sure you're running and doing your push-ups and sit-ups.
Hey, at minimum, you want to make sure that you're getting your core workouts in.
Yeah, exactly, because they're going to make sure you do.
Yes. All right. So there's one comment, and then I'm gonna switch over to another question.
Okay.
This was from AFP_MMA_matchmaker_gal. I'm guessing that's somebody you may know already, maybe from your following list.
Okay.
She says you live a high volume lifestyle. Trust is a big thing when dating someone in law enforcement because a lot of things can't be told about cases. So kind of like if you see something, you can't just come back and say, "Hey, babe, guess what I saw today." So
exactly.
So like, how did you handle that? Like how did you handle that, or how do you handle that through the dating process?
Disney versions of things.
Fair enough.
Make it kind of. I mean, I feel like you just don't give all the information that you can. I mean, you just say, "Hey, like I had an incident today that involved a kid, and that's all I can really talk about." Or, "Hey, I had an incident that involved so and so, whatever, and I really can't talk about it right now, but just know I had a hard day. I had a lot that I had to deal with today." And I think that's still being transparent, but letting them still know that the situation happened, but yet you can't really explain the details at this time. I feel like that's probably the best way.
Just don't come back and like you don't want to act like nothing happened.
Exactly.
Because people always know when we're a little upset, right? Especially our significant other, because sometimes they get us upset. So so
and they're like, "Dang, all I said is hi."
All I said is, "Did you want your steak medium or medium rare?" Like I thought cooking for you and having a whole meal was going to be a little bit better. But that makes sense. But so that was her statement. So that there was another good question on here. I'm looking down to my phone to make sure I get it right. This was from S_Wilmington13. He says it takes emotional intelligence to understand your thoughts and feelings as well as act upon those. Does any academy invest in officers' emotional intelligence through like classes or mentorship?
As in, do they teach you about what is that? What do you mean?
Yeah, that's based on. It sounds like what his question is framed around. Does academies, maybe the ones you've been through or maybe the ones you may know about, do they actually talk about EI, emotional intelligence? Do they actually make it a focal point, like specifically? And I'm guessing I know for like the community and the citizens we do, but I think he means hopefully. Well, this is just Michael Laitler's perception. Maybe I think he means more related to like mental us, And Wilmington, if you're still in the chat, just if you want to clarify that, if you're talking about us as law enforcement, like dealing with our own mental wellness, or if you're talking about
If the academies are teaching us.
Yeah, the academies are teaching us that specifically.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they hit on it very, very lightly through the academy, if that's what we're going through. Like, I feel like they don't talk about it a lot. And I think that, and they could now. Like I said, it's been a little bit since I've been to the academy, and
he said, as law enforcement dealing with personal stuff.
Okay, so repeat that real quick. Sorry.
Yeah. So it sounds like he's talking about like dealing with like personal issues. Has the academy in the past, in your experience, said, okay, hey Jeff, if you have something going on the outside, not necessarily dealing with the call for service, maybe you're just having let's say your kid's sick or your parents are not feeling right. Like, is it being taught to deal with your mental health issues even outside of work, or is it just specifically like mission organization based?
I think in the academy they told us get hobbies outside of police work, and that was about it. No. I mean, I don't, and I can't speak on every police department, but I feel like a lot of police departments don't care, I guess, what happens outside, as long as you're not getting in trouble. So I really I feel like if you're dealing with stuff at home, like they tell you, why are you bringing it to the workplace? Leave it at home. And I don't think they really guide you on having issues outside of work. So I think if that's what we're talking about, I've never had where I've dealt with things outside of work and they really cared. It was more of get over it and you're at work right now.
And I don't want people to hear this and feel discouraged by that. And because any organization you work for, well, not any, a lot of organizations you work for, there's certain missions, values, there's things that they have to accomplish. And
correct.
If they could just tell you like, hey, whatever you have going on at home, leave it at home. That's the mission, because they need you to be doing calls for service. They need you to be responding to different levels of critical incidents. So the simple based on timing, because you can't teach everything. Now I know some states, I want to say California, and I might have heard Florida as well. In the academy, they're doing at least 8 hours of emotional intelligence type training, which
that's cool.
Is that enough? Probably not, but it's better than nothing. It's better 100%. Than one of the instructors just saying, hey, by the way, if you have a bad day at home, don't bring it here. We don't want to hear about it. Like, it's better than that. Like, there's actually curriculums being developed to address some of those EI type of situations. Let's see. So he's clarifying that's how I was asking, the care of the person rather than just officer. Yes. So the like how you live outside of the uniform.
Yeah. I mean, I think we did they were making, at least in the county that I work in, they were putting everybody through a crisis class, which I guess, I mean, it was more crisis of other people, but I feel like sitting in that class, you were able to like see other things that you were able to do as well, like getting people help, because they would teach you how to get other people help. But at the same time, you could look at that and be like, okay, there's still things that I could do outside of work to get help as well. So I know they are pushing that.
Yeah, and they are. And I could tell people that are thinking about getting into the career or the industry, or people that are questioning it. I speak a lot. If you ever follow my socials, whether it's IG or LinkedIn, I'm in a lot of different states. I'm dealing with a lot of executives like chiefs and sheriffs, and I can tell you their awareness is there. It's just it's a process. You got to remember, a lot of us that's been in this industry for, let's say, at least a decade, like myself and Jeff, we were told for so long, hey, just get over it. So now this is becoming a trend, and unfortunately, funding's not as high for stuff like that. Not mean that it's not there. I don't want to say it's not there, but as people try to shift money, it's like, okay, if we put more money into emotional intelligence or mental well-being, what else are we going to sacrifice? Because if you have, let's say, I'm going to say this in a simple form. If you have $100 budget and you have to do firearms, driving, DT, report writing, CPR, where does emotional intelligence come in? And if it does come in, where do you remove that, especially with short staffing and everything else? So it's a battle, but I can tell you, Jeff, from my experience and everybody watching, that agencies are making a push. They're just trying to figure out how to use the pie and like divide the pie up as best as they can.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I do think that mental health for officers is very, very important, because you're not going to get good quality officers if they're dealing with other things. So I feel like that needs to be just as important as anything else.
And that's why I have you on here, Jeff, because I want people to know that. And that's why you have people jumping in here. I know it's just Drew just said, hey, it's just not a priority for a lot of departments. And Drew, I can tell you it's getting there, but I don't disagree with you how it has been. But some departments are trying. Some departments are trying to make that switch over because they see like, hey, if you have a bad day at home, you're probably going to have a bad day at work. It's just the way it is. Like you just don't want to hold it in because when you hold it in, it's and you talked about it early on with your story. You hold it in, and then you start finding negative outlets. And when you find those negative outlets, it just goes downhill. So, man,
I feel like you start playing victim as a person when you start holding things in. You want to victimize everything.
Yep. Oh, and Lindsay. So Lindsay made 2 comments. I like Lindsay. I like your last comment. I'm gonna go up to your one before that because you're giving great nuggets, and that's probably why you're a great speaker and you do very well with the mental wellness. You said in LEO relationships we have to develop a gameplay for honest communication and for those bad days. And because trauma changes us, our communication styles has to evolve as well. So yes. So being transparent, I think Jeff, you hit that on the nail. Like telling people, and I've learned that too. Like telling people out there, like, hey, I'm in law enforcement. This is what's going to happen probably. Be ready. So, Lindsay, that's really good. And then the last part, I think this is something that all of us as speakers and trainers and people even in support teams are trying to do. Putting money into mental health is cheaper than lawsuits and high turnover. Man.
Amen to that.
Woo. Lindsay, I'm going to applaud you on that one. That was good. Lindsay, I'm going to look at the Instagram camera. Lindsay, that was really good. That was good because you're right. It's so much that like we save when we just invest money. And a lot of times it's not a lot. And sometimes it's just creating a little bit of awareness on mental wellness that can keep somebody from having a bad shooting or drinking and coming to work or abusing medication. Sometimes it's the simple things, but it's hard to see because it's not like, and Jeff, it's not like you don't get when you do mental wellness training, leadership training, it's not extremely tangible. So if you do firearms, if you train, you're going to be able to qualify. That's a tangible outcome. But sometimes you see a mental wellness training and you don't know when it's going to pay off. But we know in the long run, when people make bad decisions, we see lawsuits, we see consent decrees throughout the country. It's those little things that we're missing out on just because we overlook it because we're like, let's see what happens.
I mean, like the lawsuit thing she said, like, I mean, I was going to work on 3 days not sleeping because I just couldn't sleep, seeing dead people when I closed my eyes. And I was going to work. And then, like I said, I was forgetting everything. I'm like, why am I forgetting everything? Well, dude, you haven't slept in 3 days. So, and that right there is a liability itself. But I'm a body at work. They don't have to call somebody into work, but I'm still there. But am I really there? No. I'm driving and I'm thinking I'm seeing stuff that's driving down the road. It's not even there. Because I've been up for 3 days. So again, the mental health, I mean, like she said, I mean, it's cheaper than lawsuits.
Yeah. And trust me, if you've ever been an executive as a sheriff, a chief, a warden, a director, you don't want your name on a lawsuit. And you think, man, how could I have circumvented this $1 million lawsuit that I'm going to have to pay out? You're like, let's see, if I could have brought Jeff in to speak, Mike in to speak, Lindsay, if I could just brought them in, maybe I could have saved it. But I mean, once again, the downside is it's hard to have that direct correlation, but we know through training and providing resources, that's where it happens. So, Jeff, I told you, gosh, I'm looking at the time, and I told you that my goal was going to try to keep this under 30 minutes. We're at about 47 minutes right now,
give or take.
Okay. So, for the sake of time and the sake of everybody, if somebody was looking to find you and they wanted to reach out and they really just needed a support line, how would they find you?
My Instagram, IM_J Martin, and feel free to reach out anytime. I'm willing to give out my number for anybody that needs to talk or call, and I'm here for you. Been through it, and I don't want anybody else to have to go through it alone. So,
man, I'm here for you. You also, people that are on Instagram right now, I'm gonna look at the Instagram camera or IG Live, and if you need help, Jeff is here. He's been through things that I haven't been through, challenges and just things that I'm happy that he was able to share, but some of you are suffering right now, or someone that's suffering. If y'all need a lifeline, reach out. Y'all have some more support. Jeff, any final words?
Just want to thank God for keeping me here. Without him, I wouldn't be who I am today. And God bless everybody, and watch your six and stay safe.
And I will tell everybody, I didn't touch on this because I know it's a whole nother topic in itself. Jeff found the Lord. What was it, back in May? Was it May? It was
April.
this year. April.
A little bit before April. I actually got baptized in April, and it's changed my life. Like I said, I was on 10 different medications, and God did what no medication could ever do, and changed my entire life. And I can't thank anybody but him.
Yep. And I tell people, I try to be mindful of politics, religion, but I tell somebody, when you have a higher authority, whatever that might be, whatever religion you practice, it does pay off, especially when you're going through those dark days. And it's sometimes undervalued until you think about pulling that trigger, or you look at that rope, or you think about how many pills can I take not to be here. Yeah. It's good to have a higher power that says we would rather have you here than not here. So exactly. That's why
there's always light.
Correct. Yes.
There's always light.
Yes. Lindsay actually says she was baptized in June, so she's definitely a awesome. 2024. Yes. And good job.
Congrats.
Congrats again. You're doing a great job, Lindsay. You're hitting all the marks on here. Maybe next time we have an Instagram live, we have to bring Lindsay on as well.
I would love that. I would love that.
Yes. So once again, Jeff, I appreciate you taking your time out tonight. I know this being your first podcast, you killed it, Jeff. You killed it. And anybody in the chat, no. Hey, anybody in the chat, if you loved what you heard from Jeff tonight, make sure you smile, make sure you give him a round of applause, because it takes a lot to come, not just on my podcast for the first time, but now we're doing it in a dynamic manner where he has to be kind of cognizant, because now we're on Instagram Live, and it's like almost having a live recording. So it's no, actually, it is a live recording. So Jeff, you see people clapping hands and giving you applause, and I'm sure once they go back and watch this video at whatever level, I know it's going to be inspirational. But Jeff, I truly thank you for being on here. We'll talk a little bit after we end the call. But Anybody looking for help, anybody needing anything, make sure you all, if you don't find an answer with any of my other podcast guests, you know what Jeff's about, you know what he's been through. And we just always want to provide a platform that allows us to humanize the badge and show people that we suffer through things. We're the same people going to the same grocery stores that you. We're having the same illnesses. We're having the same traumatic lifestyles. And we just want to be another resource when times get tough. So once again, Jeff, I thank you for your time. And like I said, don't hang up when I end the Zoom. You. But folks, make sure you hit up Jeff. I am_J Martin. If you want more contact, like he said, message him directly. Well, I'm not going to force him to put his number on here, but I don't want him getting any unwelcome messages. But let him filter through that on his own. But no, seriously, guys, make sure you guys connect with him, and make sure you find an opportunity to just either show your support or just pick his brain, because we have good people out here, and Jeff's one of them. So thank you all for watching this Instagram Live. For those on the LEO First podcast, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, and Instagram, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you hit up all the platforms. We thank you for taking time out of your day and being here with us and allowing us to pour life into you. Thank you, and thank you, Jeff. You all have a great day, great night, and be safe.
You've been listening to the LEO First Podcast. Michael has been in law enforcement since 2005. He's worked for 3 law enforcement agencies in 3 different states. He's a professional speaker who travels the country teaching about leadership development and self-awareness. And he's the author of a book called Greatness Beyond the Badge: The 3 Key Principles for Self-Awareness. It's Michael's passion to bring law enforcement members' stories to the front, so you get the real and raw take. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with Michael on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Michael Laidler, on Twitter at Michael A. Laidler, on Facebook at Michael Laidler Leadership. Send an email to michael@michaellaidler.com and hit the website at michaellaidler.com. See you next time on the LEO First Podcast.
Find vehicles riding in the remote.